Hi team. In this video I want to talk about the process of becoming excellent at a particular activity. How people become experts. And fortunately there's a gentleman who has spent the majority of his life trying to understand just this. This expert of expertise building, Anders Ericsson, kept coming up in texts that I was reading on the subject of learning. So I finally purchased his. It's the Cambridge Handbook of Expertise and Expert Performance, a 900-page, basically, phone book of dense academic writing. And for those of you that don't know what a phone book is, well, it's about the size of 6 or 7 VHS tapes combined together. As this book describes, for every skill set on this planet, someone has studied the most efficient means of acquiring it. The handbook addresses playing guitar, mathematical expertise, chess, software design, throwing darts, writing. It goes on and on. I'm just kidding. It's pretty great. And the principal message seems to be that practice does not make perfect. It's deliberate practice that makes you great. And to understand what deliberate practice means, it helps understand how people acquire skill sets to begin with. I'm going to spare you the details of several hundred pages and jump to the more exciting parts. And what's interesting is that after about 50 hours of practice, most individuals achieve an acceptable level of performance, and errors become far less frequent. But then you enter the problem phase, in which automation sets in. You can now execute this new skill set smoothly and with minimal effort, which ironically is why you stop advancing. According to the book, this is where an individual skill set will plateau indefinitely or even regress if you do not engage in deliberate practice. And this applies broadly, as in it happens to most people. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more experts. And what's absolutely wild about that conclusion is that it means there's very little correlation between experience and skill set. It's even crazier when you think about the fact that many professionals are hired based on tenure. Ericsson elaborates by pointing out that when individuals are hired based on extensive experience or reputation, or are nominated by their peers as experts, their actual performance is occasionally found to be unexceptional. And he proves this with studies about highly experienced computer programmers' performance on programming tasks by citing that their performance is not always superior to that of students. And he has similar studies and similar outcomes for physics professors and their students, etc. But my favorite on the correlation between experience and performance relates to wine experts on page 686. When wine experts are required to detect, describe, and discriminate characteristics of a wine without knowledge of its identity, i.e., seeing the label on the bottle, their performance is only slightly better than those generated by regular wine drinkers. Now, I read that out of the book because who wants to endure the wrath of a wine expert at the next cocktail party? But if you have to read the label to be an expert, well, it reminded me a little of stand-up comedian Mitch Hedberg's line where he claims to be a car expert because just by looking at any car's headlights, he can tell you precisely which way that car is going. Anyway, research shows that once professionals reach what Ericsson describes as phase 3 of building a skill set, the remainder of their professional career requires only stable performance. And that can be achieved with minimal effort. For this reason, beyond the first 2 years in a new profession, experience correlates weakly with performance. 2 years. That blew my mind. Imagine being 2 years out of college and never getting better at the thing you spend approximately 8 hours a day doing. So how can you build a skill set faster than your peers and continue to surpass them over time? Let's really define deliberate practice for the answer. The handbook offers quite a few definitions, but I like the way Josh Flohr explains it in Moonwalking with Einstein. And here's the thing. Experts engage in a very directed, highly focused routine. And they develop strategies for consciously keeping out of the autonomous stage by doing 3 things. Focusing on their technique, staying goal-oriented, and getting constant and immediate feedback on their performance. Amateur musicians are more likely to spend the time they devote to practice simply playing music, whereas pros will spend that same time working through really tedious exercises. Ice skaters, for example, will spend that time trying jumps where they are far more likely to fall, while lesser skaters will work on jumps they've already mastered. Deliberate practice by its nature must be hard. If you want to truly excel at something, how you spend your time preparing is what makes the difference. The amount of time is of little consequence if the training does not require concentration and effort. Think about this. The reason most frequently provided by expert performers for the amount of effective training achieved per day is an inability to sustain the level of concentration that is necessary. And for this reason, most expert performers never train for more than 4 to 5 hours per day. It's just too exhausting. Now, I know this whole time you've been wondering, what does this mean for financial modeling? Watching the videos and reading the notes on asimplemodel.com is not sufficient to learn this skill set, and certainly not sufficient to become awesome at it. You have to build the models yourself. And when you realize that it's becoming easy, then you have to test your limits with new examples. ASM provides plenty of case studies and tests to push you out of your comfort zone but you have to take the time to work through them because the process will expose areas of weakness and highlight the topics you need to revisit. Now, before you go, this is my favorite part of the entire book. I think the most powerful message Erikson delivers is that regardless of your approach to learning, your biggest advantage is that it is rare for people to make the commitment. Most people learn enough to get by and then abandon the learning process. If you can commit to continued learning, you have an advantage over most. And if you ever think to yourself, well, some people are just naturals, why should I bother? It's also not true. Erikson spent time studying child prodigies, and on the topic of music, he found that even the fact that more talented children improve faster early on in their music development appears to be largely due to deliberate practice. Now, if the skill set is basketball, then yes, there are advantages you cannot work around. 7 feet tall is 7 feet tall, no matter how much deliberate practice is involved. That said, deliberate practice is still required even if you have a unique advantage. I'm 6'6", and as it relates to basketball, that is the only thing Michael Jordan and I have in common. A friend once told me that I catch like a donkey. I didn't ask, but he elaborated, because they have hooves and can't catch. Fortunately, height won't help you build models. In fact, there does not appear to be any unique advantage for this skill set. As Erikson writes in the introduction, not even IQ could distinguish the best among chess players or the most successful and creative among artists and scientists. How cool is that? The playing field is even. You just have to get started. All right, team. Thanks for watching. That's all for now.